Hello, this is the Common Book Show, and we got a lot of people here today. Okay, so we've got Richard in red, and we've got Brian in blue, Greg in his normal gray. I am also in blue, and Paula. And we have Russell in green, and we have Tony in a nice beige. Or white. I'm not sure exactly.
Used to be white.
Was white at
He's
one
got to
time.
look at his shirt to make sure. I don't know.
It was white once.
It was okay. Well, whatever color it is, he's here and he's doing some artwork. So and
Wait a minute. Let me ask a question, Paul. This is important. This is what Richard Wickett talks about every fucking week. Is he escaping from reality by ignoring us and drawing during the show? Okay, you're escaping from reality over there, Tony.
yeah,
Just so
but
you know.
if he doesn't care, if he's
No, I'm just saying. I just wanted you to know that you're escaping from reality, according to Richard.
Yeah. Well,
You want to escape from
define
reality?
reality.
it's fine. It's fine.
That's up to
for me.
him.
It's fine for me.
But is it possible to escape reality?
It's
Good question.
It's really not. So I wanted to mention my son Tom. He is also here someplace, but he ran away, so he must be in the bathroom. So now, Richard, I have had a hell of a week because Greg's mom is in a
But
nurse.
unfortunately not dead.
No, she's in a rehab facility, not for alcohol or drugs, but for physical therapy. So I've been very, very, very busy, and I haven't had a chance to prepare anything. But I did want to talk about one thing, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we may have talked about this on the show before, because I heard this thing on NPR today, and it was a rerun, and it was about this woman who was a scientist and or a doctor, I think, and she lost her all of a sudden one day she said, she stayed home for a couple weeks for some reason, and she said, I'm going to just start painting. I don't want to be a doctor anymore. And so she started painting, and she was doing these repetitious paintings, like she'd do a whole series of strawberries, then a whole series of some other thing. And then she heard this Ravel, da 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 da, bolero. She heard
Bolero,
that
yeah.
song, and it just stopped her in her tracks. And she started coming up with patterns for each note. And she drew this 2-panel painting of Ravel, and she called it Ravel the song, not Ravel Unraveled,
Bolero.
but Bolero Unraveled. And okay, so I mean, that's an interesting idea. It turns out that she had this strange kind of dementia that does something to the frontal lobe, which contains language. So her language was dissolving. So the theory is that when your language starts to dissolve, it opens up other parts of your brain. So she got this visual and oral acuity more than what she had. Well, the weird thing about it is when Ravel wrote that song, he also had the same dementia of his.
Weird.
And he wrote it, and it's all repetitious. It's that same notes, the same notes over and over again, but it just fills up with orchestration. And he had the exact same experience, and it wasn't because of him writing it. It was a product of him writing it, and it was the patterns again. Like she was doing strawberries, and he was doing this pattern, the sound pattern, over and over again. And at the end of that, he did actually unravel, and she didn't know that, and neither did her husband. They didn't have any idea that this had happened to Ravel. So it was like a repeat, her situation. And I think they studied like 60 people. It's a very rare form of dementia. So they studied these 60 people, and it always happens the same. It just kind of collapses. That part of your brain just collapses, and the reason they knew that Ravel had it is because after his death, a brain surgeon cut open and went into his brain, and he saw it was actually had fallen in. And they knew her that it happened because they had scans and stuff now. So it was the exact same thing, and she just latched onto that patterned bolero the same way that he did, and he and they both had it took them like 6 years to completely that area of their brain to completely disappear, and she tried to paint up until the end. But she was still seeing things she wanted to paint, like visual stuff, but she couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
And I thought, what a weird coincidence that this woman would have, and she was, apparently she had developed into a really remarkable painter. You know, she was selling her paintings. They were getting more and more abstract. And in fact, I would like to look up this woman and see what these paintings were, but just out of curiosity. So, first of all, I didn't know there were all these different types of dementia. Apparently, there's hundreds of different kinds of dementia. And this one is one I mean, I'm not going to sit around and fear it, but it sounds really scary, doesn't it? Your ability to put words together and to make sense of words just dissolves.
Well, yeah, whenever your mental faculties are changing, transforming, or you're losing capacity, it's frightening, yeah.
Well, I mean, with Greg's mom, I can hold a conversation with her about stuff. She can hold a great conversation, and she's, witty, and she uses all these words. But then 5 minutes later, it's her memory part of her brain that's going. She doesn't remember we had that conversation.
Right.
Like, she didn't remember she was going to physical therapy. She didn't remember that she was being washed, that she had help getting clean. So that's the normal kind that I'm used to hearing about, is the memory part. But this other part, it was just like so freakish. I mean, has anyone here ever experienced anybody with dementia?
Me.
My uncle.
I mean, at 89, I'm thinking to myself, holy smoke, where did my mind go yesterday? Or the day before.
Sure.
And then I remember some of the strangest things from 40 years ago.
Wow.
70 years ago.
Stuff from way back.
Stuff when I was a kid.
Does it scare you a little bit?
No. I accept the fact that I'm at that stage where the mind will go.
But do you find it interesting then?
I do find it fascinating sometimes when actually, as a matter of fact, when I'm like right now, I'm saying something and I know what I want to say, but it actually, as a matter of fact, relates back to something that happened yesterday or the day before that. I mean, you're talking about Ravel.
Yeah.
And I have a Ravel story. May I tell it?
Sure.
Ravel wrote a piece called La Valse. It is a really woozy waltz. He wrote it actually, as a matter of fact, sort of after Johann Strauss and Richard Strauss and all the other Strausses and so forth. I mean, it's not like the Blue Danube, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, if you ever listen to it.
Right. He's impressionistic.
It's beyond. But the point is that I read a review decades ago, and so this is where the memory comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually subscribed to a magazine back in the, maybe the 50s or 60s, I don't remember, called High Fidelity, and about reviews. A reviewer wrote about La Valse, and he said the waltz reminded him of drunken dancers on a toilet seat that has been oiled and they are all just about ready to fall into the toilet.
I would be. It
That
would
what
be
an interesting
interesting to.
review.
It would be interesting to know if he wrote that after Bolero or before Bolero.
Well, I think sort of in the same period of time, but I'm not sure
Because
about that.
that's when he started to lose it, when he started doing these patterns, and a waltz, of course, is a repetition too of patterns, and so
Yes. And Balanchine, back in the 50s, I saw this, or I think it was actually in the 40s, I saw this ballet at the New York City Ballet of La Valse. Maybe it was later on, but whatever. And it was loaded with couples dancing with gorgeous gowns, but instead of white, black.
Wow.
And that made the waltz look sort of eerie and kind of, I don't know,
Like,
and they were all
macabre.
swirling around the toilet seat. Now, and that image has come back to me over and over again recently, because that's exactly what America is going through right now. We are all mostly dancing on the edge
And
of
a greasy toilet seat.
Yeah, a greasy
That's what
toilet
it
seat
feels like.
as Uvalde, as whatever, Ukraine. I mean, it's just these crazy things are happening all over.
I know too many now. It's like we've always had some, but now it doesn't seem like we get a break.
In the over 200 years of the United States of America, I read recently someplace that we have only had 20 years without war.
Of some kind, either
some
foreign or
kind.
domestic. Or,
That we were there, or
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were there, or
Wow.
the guy was. I mean, how many years were they?
we're a
in Korea?
violent people.
Yeah, we're
Well,
violent.
humans are violent.
But I mean, Americans are particularly violent.
Well, guns.
I mean, our gun culture but it goes way back. I mean, the pioneer days,
But it seems like everyone had to start somewhere, rudimentarily, fighting to survive,
Oh.
hunting, building, constructing, fighting against the elements and other people. So what was it that ultimately differentiated us from most other nations, as
That
such
we were
violent
built
people?
upon a lie with the Indians the native people being thrown away
Yeah.
into reservations, and the building on religious basis, the bringing of slaves into the country. And I mean, the whole United States of America is built on several vast lies.
Yeah, well, and now vast lies that they're trying to cover up. Our team of research people came back with this answer for us. We have La Valise is 1920, and Bolero is 1928. So it was before that Bolero, when he started to, like, his brain started to collapse. But I that's interesting. So I'll have to listen to that and find out, if it makes my brain collapse.
That is interesting. I mean, the point also, Ravel had a dear friend who lost his right arm in the First World War, and he wrote a magnificent piano concerto for the left hand.
Oh, because he was a pianist, the guy?
Because the guy was a pianist and he lost his right arm, so Ravel wrote. When you study, and I have, but I've forgotten more than I remember about Ravel, he is one of the most fascinating composers. He was a strange man in so many respects that he just simply literally couldn't be straight. He had his composition and his lifestyles
that may have been,
his brain collapsed.
The brain. I mean, it might have been some way the way he thought. Though his brain, because he was, maybe it started sooner than 28 when he wrote Bolero. And I mean, how many people in this world, artists, just have weird brains? And they're able to see things and experience things differently. So,
Hey, thanks.
we have one
I was
in
going to
our
say most artists
in our
are kind
midst.
of quote unquote weird.
Yeah.
But
So I don't know. That was the only thing I had. That was that Bolero thing. So Richard, what do you got on your list?
Well, Mr. Link has brought with him his manifesto on the despair of living in 2022.
Oh, wow.
Am I going to read it?
I think you should.
I think
Definitely.
What I liked about it is it starts with him trying to beautify his neighborhood by planting a tree on the commons, you
Yeah.
know, and someone pulled it out.
what?
And that triggered a chain reaction.
Man.
Well,
you know?
Bastards.
Wow.
Now the tree
Right.
gets pulled out, the Uvalde shooting, this, you
Yeah.
know.
They
I
weren't
wrote
pulled,
this on July 4th. Thank you, Richard, for printing it and for other things, and for everything. Today is our country's 246th birthday, I think. And what do we have? Misery, despair, anguish, and chaos, to which I add sadness, disgust, fury, and horror. Oh, there are some good things out there if you can find it, and I do. But today, as I was watering some trees we planted in Arlington Park, one of the loveliest communities in Buffalo, I saw that someone had pulled up one of the trees we had planted last week by the roots and killed it. It just pulled it up and threw it on the side.
Oh.
I put killed, Killed, in capital letters.
Yeah.
Of course, that is not as horrible as the mass murders at the Tops Market in Buffalo a few weeks ago of the black people by a white supremacist, or the mass murders in Uvalde, Texas, of all those children. But it is an indication of the absolute lack of morality and civility that has taken over this land and so many people in it. I was born in the Depression, 1932. I grew up during the Second World War, served in the USFA in the early 50s, a year in Korea, lived through the Cold War, Vietnam, Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan, etc. I never felt as despairing as I do now. I have heard that for all the years of this country's existence, we have had only 20 years of peace. Wow. Approaching 90 in November, I really do not want to be here to see the inevitable fascistic authoritarian takeover of our country. When I think of all the people murdered during the World War II during the fascist regime of the Nazis, it grieves me to see our country turning towards fascism. As a teenager, I saw the end of Nazi control of Europe, and as I approach an eventuality, I see the beginnings of Nazi control of the USA. United, Harley. Complaints about gas prices? In Denmark, it's $10 a gallon, and in Germany, it's $8. The USA is among the lowest in the world. Saudi Arabia is one of the fewer countries that have lower gas prices. Inflation worldwide. So, of course, that's Biden's fault, as are airplane fares, stay home, COVID, and food. I understand that about 40% of Americans are overweight. Eat less, exercise. Well, as we suffer deadly global warming, drive your SUV a mile to the market to get a quart of milk and a loaf of bread, or potato chips and soda pop with sugar. I'm going to close now and say blessings to you all. And although there is misery, etc., out there, be good, be careful, and stay safe.
Wow.
Well,
Right on.
Well, that's supposed to be funny.
No, well, what I can say is, lately I've been thinking all these things that are going wrong. The tie-up of not infrastructure, the chain, the supply chain, oil prices, all of these things are controlled by big business, and big business controls the Republicans. So isn't it possible that it's a conspiracy that they are making Biden look bad so that the Republicans can stay in power.
Oh, yeah.
In November. I mean, isn't that possible?
I think it's very possible, probable, actually, as a matter of fact, because, I mean,
Sure.
when you come right down to it, the insanity of people actually, as a matter of fact, deciding that we have. Can you imagine the stupidity of people in the United States complaining about a goddamn tank of gas?
Well,
when they killed kids in Uvalde,
But the problem being is that some people can afford to absorb that into their budget when there are other people who are living, they're working hard. They're not lazy. They're working as
well, you just have to remember what the Presbyterians said, and that is that if you're beautiful and rich, that means you're good. And if you're ugly and poor, that means you're bad.
Right.
So, I mean, you can excuse everybody in this world for being whatever because of their physical appearance and their wealth.
Yeah,
and that's why Donald Trump is probably the best human being in the world because he is ugly and rich.
And the poor and the
First line would have identified.
And the poor and the ugly are the ones who are now looking and saying, things weren't like this when Trump was here. They're also the uneducated to a great degree.
But without taking into account that the 4 years of Trump might have led to where we are now in great degree, his policies.
Yeah.
But I have one point from your reading there,
Diatribe.
Russell, that you say that you feel like fascism is inevitable in the United States. It's on a path toward inevitability, and I disagree with that idea. That I don't think it's inevitable. It looks like it's definitely trending in that direction, so I'm not arguing with that. But I don't think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Based on what good people do, and if people actually step up and defend what this country supposedly stands for.
Let me tell you how it will become less inevitable.
Okay.
If the Department of Justice steps forward and charges all of these cretins who caused this thing on January 6th.
Although I think it's too late, though. It's too long past what's happened, and 100% they're not going to criminally charge an ex-president.
I don't say I do not.
I'm just talking about that in particular. I'm not talking about the other people.
The thing is, Donald Trump wants to declare his candidacy for
to stay out of jail.
So that he falls under that category.
Yeah.
So if they don't do something, that Merrick Garland guy, he's a pussy. You step forward and start the process before he declares.
Right.
Well, one would hope
Unfortunately,
so,
I don't think it's going to happen.
but it's not going to happen.
I don't think it's.
There was one indication. I have had one indication recently of something really churning. That 10 people actually made Bannon guilty. Then you stop to think. October 21st is the date that the judge sentences Bannon. God knows what will happen between now and October 21st, as far as the courts are concerned and appeals, and God knows Bannon will never go to jail.
The courts are rigged
I think
now.
he's going to jail for like 6 months. But the thing is what they're doing, it's an MO that they've always done in America. They're not going to go for the principal actors. They're going to take the small fry and they're going to put them in jail. Like Bannon will go for 6 months.
But I thought that Bannon agreed to talk to the committee.
After the court case.
Right.
After he was charged.
But so he
after
agreed,
he was charged.
But he doesn't have to say anything except, that he is presidential privilege or whatever.
So what do you think about that, though? They always go for the small fry. Look at the 200 people that broke the windows, went into the Capitol, spread feces
well,
on the wall.
yeah.
Yeah, they charged a bunch of those
Yeah.
little fry
No,
people.
but I don't
but
agree
the big
with you.
people
I don't agree
are
with
unscathed.
You. I think that they're
unscathed.
going to hold Trump accountable. I think they're going to hold Trump accountable. I think they're going to, because
You do?
they have to. Otherwise, he's going to
Yes.
run in 2024.
Someone
They
has to
have
do
to.
something.
So, but you just called Merrick Garland, a
kinda-
pussy.
yeah.
So, do you think he's suddenly going to take a turn, like a 180-degree turn, and go
you know
after
what?
him?
I
don't
was
see it.
He's too. He. I don't remember how they put it, but I was listening to something either after the after talk of the last hearing, or it was on NPR. I'm not sure. I was listening to somebody talking, and they said that these Democrats who are so hardwired to do the right thing are fucking up the country because they're not being forceful enough
Oh, yeah.
with these people, these Republicans who are just bullying and bulldozing their way through our government. We have to stop being so nice.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
I
you got
agree.
some of these Democrats that are already corrupt, like Joe Manchin. I mean, this guy, he's all for big business power and keeping all the tyrants in power because he's one himself.
Money.
Mr. Coal Mine, Mr. West Virginia coal, fossil fuel man,
Well, yeah, he's
Yeah.
totally looking out for himself because in whole, West Virginia is a very conservative state, and the fact that he's even a Democratic senator there is a miracle, because most of the people there are extremely conservative, and he knows if he doesn't toe a certain line, he's out.
That's
His
a
job
puppet show, though.
is gone, and
Well,
he's
what-
got a
what-
lot of
what
stock
good is
in
it-
fossil fuels.
What good is
But-
it to have a Democratic representative if he's
Basically a Republican.
right?
He
He's
is.
a Democrat
He
in
is
name
basically.
only.
Yeah. Well, he's landlocked in West Virginia. If he doesn't toe the line in West Virginia to all those conservative people, he'll never get their vote, so he'll be out. And his gravy train is over.
And all these people who would be used car salesmen otherwise. That's the only thing they're qualified for.
Right.
But something does have to be done. I mean, there's no question there. I mean, a precedent has to be set. This is the most lately disgusting thing I've seen come down the pike in God knows how long.
Yeah, it's got
Well, I agree.
All because
Yeah.
one man hated to lose.
He's a baby. He's a giant baby.
No. The baby
he-
don't know he's a baby. Don't know what he's doing. This piece of shit does.
he
No, I mean
has-
baby just as
He has
emotional.
been so
I know what you
privileged.
mean.
He's been so
Yeah.
privileged his whole life. He can't handle anything that's not handed to him on a silver platter. He can't even stand the thought that he didn't win by a landslide. I mean, even if he would have won
Right.
even when he won the first time, he was saying that there were more votes for him than they counted, and more people at his
Right.
his inauguration than and he's demented. I am sick. I am sick and tired. I like all the names that Colbert has asked his audience.
Oh, yeah,
to
I love
send-
that, too.
To send in names.
It's the audience that send him
it's
in?
the
I thought
audience.
it's his writers.
No, it's the audience.
Oh, that's even more cool then. I didn't know that.
Tweeted names for
The names they come up for Trump because they won't say Trump's name on
Yeah.
the air anymore.
Yeah,
And it's really cool that they come up with some really inventive names for him.
Yeah, it's what was
You
it? It was
I can't remember any of them.
Al.
I watch him. I watch him every day. But
JFKFC.
Yeah. That was the other day. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? JFK.
JFKFC.
Hey,
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's turn away from politics. Richard, do you have anything on your list?
I do. People who are blind from birth.
Yeah.
If you ask them, what do you dream? They
Oh,
will say, I dream in smells, sounds, and feelings. Okay?
right.
Not images.
They don't know what images look like.
Okay, but then comes what is called Molyneux's problem. All right? It's a thought experiment.
Okay.
You meet a person who's blind from birth, and you hand them a rubber ball, put it in their hands, they feel it.
Yeah.
You hand them a rubber cube,
Mm-hmm.
they put it in their hands and feel it. And you say to them, now the first thing I handed you is a ball, and the second thing I handed you is a cube. All right, you got it? Okay, fine. Then there's a medical breakthrough, and they qualify for a special operation which gives them sight.
But wow.
They come over to your house. You put the ball on the table and the cube on the table, and you point. You say, what is that and what is that?
And?
What do they say?
Well,
Do they say, I don't know, I have to pick it up? Or do they know?
I would imagine that they that they know that something has no edges, and that's so they would be able to look at that thing, and without having to pick it up, if they can see it, they could say that is a ball.
But they have no sight memories. They have no memory bank of sight
Right,
memories.
but they have memory of touching that object, and it has no edges.
But that's what Richard said. Would they have to touch it to know what it was?
I think that they could. I think they could figure it out from looking at it.
This took place in the 1800s, and Molyneux said they would not know. They'd have to pick it up to tell you which one was the ball, which one was the cube. But scientists have changed their opinions on this, all right? And they say that what happens when the blind person picks it up and holds the ball and holds the cube, they form an idea in their mind as to what it is that they're handling, okay? And this idea is very abstract, all right? It's not like a picture. It's an abstract idea. And when they come over to your house after the operation and you point and say, what is that and what is that? They refer to that abstract idea and they say, oh yeah, that one's the ball, that one's the cube.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
It has to do with how ideas are abstract and how they're not photographs.
Okay.
But they get it right. They would get it right.
And modern day thinkers say yes, they would get it right. And I'm surprised this has never been tested.
Because the thing is, without seeing this, I know it has no edges. If I just roll it in my hands, I know it has no edges. And if I see something on a table that has no edges, I mean, and then the other one has edges, I would have to know that the one without edges is the one that's the circle.
Well, did somebody when you were growing up teach you what the word edge meant? And did they do it by having you touch it or showing it to you?
I don't specifically remember someone teaching me that, but I did learn it somehow through.
So that's exactly what happens. I think to most people, at least to me at any rate. I was thinking, my God, how did I learn all those shapes? You know?
Yeah. Well,
how did I approach this particular shape with that particular shape, or that when I was 2 years old or 10 or whatever?
They teach it in the class. I mean, my granddaughter.
Actually, as a matter of fact, in art class, I remember they would distribute things around, and you would have to, choose one and draw it.
Oh, and the toy where you have it's like a box with different shaped holes in it. And you, as a baby, it's for babies. You would take the object and try to fit it into those holes.
Yeah,
so you might not know the name of the shape, but you would know this shape is the same as this shape, and I can fit that into that hole.
So this is a problem that they're discovering when they're developing artificial intelligence. When you say to a robot, as they are right now, this is a bottle, and then you'd say to the same robot, what is this called? They wouldn't know.
Right.
See, but to a human being, they would form an abstraction, and then the abstraction would say, yeah, that's a bottle too.
Right.
Oh, so it's forming abstractions.
Robots can't do that.
Robots can't do that.
Richard, see, that's what happens with Molyneux's problem.
They're going to figure out how to do that, though, eventually. They'll figure it out.
Probably.
Has anyone ever studied an artist that was born blind at birth?
I don't know.
I can't think. Somehow I remember that. What a blind artist.
Would they be a sculptor or would they be a painter?
But even to sculpt,
Oh yeah, they
You'd
use
have-
their fingers a lot.
but you'd have to have a concept of the shape, unless it's just abstract. If you don't know what anything is shaped like, you couldn't make a person or a tree. You would have to just make that would be interesting to see a sculpture made by a person who was blind since birth.
I would be interested in that.
I think there have been sculptures done by blind people, but
Yeah, I mean, if blind people could be, well, you're
If-
right. It would be interesting.
If they would feel, okay, they might be able to copy something they felt.
Right.
what would a blind person actually be able to paint, though, or to draw?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to see if we could
It
find.
sounds like something that has once been on CBS Sunday Morning.
Yeah, something.
A blind painter. You mean, but it wouldn't be blind from birth. It would be someone.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
somebody who has already seen things
Yeah.
would have
Yeah.
a different perception than a guy who never saw anything at all.
Yeah.
What do blind people? I went there. I've never studied that at all.
Never. Yeah, the idea that you would not know what anything looks like except in concept when you touch it.
The imagination is so incredible
And I'm
that when you
especially if
stop to
you're
think
a-
about what a blind person could conceive of, in his imagination, never having seen anything.
Okay, there's another question. When I was a little kid and I was told not to do this because I was going to ruin my eyes, I would press down on my eyelid
Wow.
and I would see like colors
Oh
and
yeah,
shapes.
yeah. I used to do that too.
I
too.
wonder if blind people can see that.
Yeah, because pressure on the nerves firing. No, maybe not.
I don't know.
Because you're putting pressure on the nerves in
Yeah.
your optic nerve.
And sometimes I would actually see like things
Yeah,
that look
flash.
like
Colors.
blood vessels. It would actually look like
yeah,
a blood vessel.
I used to do that.
Yeah, I was told
Yeah.
many times not to. I still do it, so
Yeah.
it hasn't really affected my eyesight as far as I know. But
The
yeah.
main thing you're talking about is I've been reading a lot about the brain and neurology, and that's what separates humans from all the other animals on the planet is our capability for abstraction. That's how, like Paula said, that you guessed right, that blind person that gained sight would be able to go, oh yeah, that's a ball, that's a cube.
Yeah, because you
It's that capability for abstraction.
that would be a really interesting. I wonder if there are like a group of scientists who are studying that in humans and how that works, because that's really interesting.
If you looked up on your machine blind artists,
Well, let's see what comes up. Under blind artist. Blind painter, you mean, right?
Yeah,
Or
I don't want
sculptor,
Ray
or-
Charles to come up.
would have to be blind from birth though.
Oh yeah, there's 10 of them right off the bat.
But are they?
I
Would they?
figured there had to be some, yeah.
So Keith Salmon, 1959 to the present. Want to see what he paints?
Was he painting? Was he? But
He paints abstractions.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
that's kind of
was
cool.
he blind from birth?
Yeah. Well, let's. Oh my God.
But there's one important thing to know about those. Some people that are legally blind can still see shadows.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I would.
So it depends
I'd
on
be
how-
more curious
how
about
blind,
blind
they
you
are.
are.
how blind you are. That's,
I know it sounds
Yeah.
terrible, yeah. Excuse me.
What about this one?
Wow.
that one, that person has concepts of things, so they
They
had.
That's
they
pretty
weren't
cool.
blind from
They
birth.
were not blind from birth.
No, look. I'm going to blow this up.
They
Read
were
what
blind.
this says. A native of, come on, don't go crazy on
I
me.
bet he's Canadian, no.
A native of Turkey, he was born blind.
As a child, he taught himself to write and paint using Braille to create an outline to his drawings. Huh.
Isn't that interesting?
That's really interesting.
And yet he's able to paint that.
Well, then maybe he had a Braille something to copy from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Braille taught him patterns.
Yeah.
Right.
And then here's Sergei Man. Oh, he paints abstract. Oh, come on, show his work. Jeez.
Yeah.
What is...
I know they're always trying.
This is interesting.
Oh.
They're always trying to get you to look at the advertisements.
They're actually better than some seeing people's are.
This one, he got a brain tumor and he lost his sight.
Oh, so he saw
So
before.
he had already, yeah.
Yeah, but still, it seems.
Still, it's unbelievable.
It seems.
Oh, that's
Oh,
wild.
that's interesting.
That's sort of abstract, wouldn't
Yes.
you say?
Very.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 faces, I'd say, right?
I don't know. It looks like It kind of looks like that alien that came out of that woman's stomach in that movie, and the
Don't
middle.
say
in the
that.
I can
middle
actually
of
see
that-
a
hate that
horse
scene.
head in the
I
center.
hate that scene. It's disgusting.
That's really fascinating. My God, Terry Hope.
Jackson.
Oh, that's interesting.
I just it
Boy, how
just
symmetrical.
it just
Jeez.
made me really nervous to think that if I ever really wanted to take up painting, it might mean my language brain was dissolving. But that's cool.
So was this guy blind from birth?
That guy with who painted that, let's see.
He actually did a hand?
No. He lost his sight as an adult.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And
that
he was only partially blind.
yeah, so that's a whole different thing.
I mean, even if you could blind, put your hand down and trace it around.
Right.
I mean, what would
And you make a turkey.
I love that joke. Remember that joke about the blind guys who saw the elephant and they touched various parts of the elephant, and this they had all sorts of ideas
It's
about
a
what an elephant
tree.
was
It's
like.
yeah. I think you've told me
I
that.
can't remember all the details, but
When they got together and decided they had an elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a snake. No, it's a tree.
It's a tree.
God.
So, anybody reading? What are you reading these days?
I think my microphone went out. Can you hear me?
I can hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Oh, okay, it must be the headset went out a little bit.
I checked to see if he's still plugged in, Paul.
No, it doesn't matter as long as you can hear me. I don't care about damn about the headset.
Oh, he's not.
No, don't
Okay.
plug it in. I don't care.
It's already done.
I'm just hearing about the idea that getting rid of kickers in the NFL and getting rid of punters would be a good idea,
Do
Yeah.
you think so, though?
because then you just have to go for it you get 4 downs, and if you don't get a touchdown, you give the ball to the other team,
But where
the whole
do
idea
you
of
where do you
kicking.
give it to him?
wherever you are.
Oh, so if you happen to be
Turn the ball over if you're at the 15, you're to 40. If you're at the 50, if you can't make a first down, you have to. The other team takes possession. You don't need to have any stupid guy coming in for one play to kick the ball, or the punting thing. What's punting? Oh, we're gonna have you punt away. It would just be all offense. No bullshit.
So
special
that takes
teams.
out originally, like it's called football, and originally the game evolved from a game where they did kick the ball around a lot, and it went further
really
and further
went-
away from that. So now is it going to evolve to where there's no kicking? You're going to have field goals though, right?
No field goals,
No
no
field
punting,
goals at
no
all?
extra points, no kickers at all, no on a team. You just get the ball for 4 plays.
What about
You
all
get
the
a-
out of work kickers and punters now? Though I
Who
mean,
cares about that?
there's going to be a couple hundred of them.
You know how
and
things change, Brian, in life.
I
Sometimes-
was a kicker and punter when I played football, and
but
I
you don't
take
play
offense
football
to
though
this.
now. You're not going to be affected.
Well,
It's just
I
the
might-
NFL
his
being
legacy. What is he going
Yes.
to do about his legacy?
well. The NFL would be making the game more exciting because people love the offense that's getting more and more exciting, like the Bills. So you just only have offense, 4 plays. You always have to go for it on 4th down. You can't punt. You can't kick a field goal. You have to go for it on 4th down. Makes it so and it's all offense. As soon as you can't get 10 yards in 4 plays, the other team gets the ball. So if you're in your own end and you can't get 10 yards from your 5-yard line,
I guess
they
that
get the
would
ball.
make it
They get the
kind
ball
of
to
So it's
14
going
or
to be
13.
like 100 to 85, like basketball scores.
Well, be more. But the last year the most praised game was the Chiefs Bills, and they both scored 40 and 30 something. It was 80, almost 80 points on the board.
Right.
So what if it's going to now be 150 points on the board? It's scoring that people enjoy. People don't enjoy the punting. You think anyone gets excited when the punter comes in? Have they ever got excited?
Only
no offense to
only
you.
an ex-punter, yeah.
I mean, no one gets excited about the punter. They want a fourth down, go for it. I mean, every time
Well,
at fourth down,
that's a good point.
Every single time at fourth down, you'd have to go for it. You couldn't bring a punter in, and the fans would love it. They're not going to say, oh, "I wish they were be able to punt instead of throwing for fourth and 6 or 4th and 10 or 4th and 24." It'd be much more exciting. So they're thinking about doing that at the NFL to make things more exciting and make things more offensive.
Where did you get this piece?
Sports
of
Talk Radio.
I heard
yeah.
something about
That's
it
right.
somewhere. Like,
Yeah,
briefly.
It's a
but-
great idea.
He listens to
The
that a
rules,
lot.
the rules committee, Paula, is they change the rules every year in the NFL.
Is it like
You don't-
the Grand Poobah or something?
Oh yeah.
No, it's this guy who. The reason they change rules every year. Every year in the NFL, they change rules to make it more
Right.
exciting. Try to make it more exciting, right? And it usually makes it more exciting by people's loving it. And if it doesn't make it more exciting, they scrap it and they get rid of it.
But all the
Usually-
owners get to vote, right?
Yeah, but
the owners of the teams get to vote on the
they have a rules
Do the
committee
punters
first,
get
and then
to
the committee
vote?
comes.
You know,
But the thing is, Josh Allen didn't get to have the ball in overtime in the most exciting game of the season last year. We were watching that together. He didn't get to have it in overtime because you weren't allowed to if the other team scored a touchdown, which the Chiefs, of course, did because the Bills sucked dick. So,
our defense.
yeah, I'm sorry. The offense is
Yeah.
great. The defense sucks dick.
Yeah.
So, even though the funny thing is they were number 1 in the league in defense, and they still suck dick. That's unbelievable. Like, what if they were number 2? They would really been bad. So they changed the rule already. Now this year, if Josh Allen gets to the overtime, he gets to have the ball even if the other team scores a touchdown.
Oh well, that's an interesting change.
No, it doesn't change
Good
anything
change.
because it just means instead of having because then you score a touchdown and a touchdown, and the third time, if you score a touchdown, Josh doesn't get the ball the second time. So it doesn't really change anything. It's just an artificial surface change to appease people. But once it happens in the playoffs this year, people will be saying, "Well, every team should get the ball twice." So the next year they'll change the rule to
See, I think that
2
rule,
times for both teams.
I think that
So they do
rule
this
is
every
stupid.
year.
That when they score a touchdown, the game's over. I think the overtime should be maybe not a 15-minute regular period, but 10 minutes, and whoever's
How about 6 minutes and 30 seconds?
no 10 minutes. I like round numbers, so
Why?
10 minutes. I just always have.
You're neurotic
And-
about it.
Yes.
Okay.
And after 10 minutes of overtime, whoever is leading wins.
It's like a 10-minute period then.
Yes. Whoever is
Extra 10-minute
winning
period.
at the end of that 10 minutes.
Do
they
you still
win
have
the
a
game.
2-minute warning in the 10 minutes and 3 timeouts?
No warnings. That's
How about 3 timeouts?
you know.
Would you have 3 timeouts in the 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so no warning though.
I don't
No
think
warning.
there
You've already
should
had
be-
2
I don't think
warnings in
there
the
should be
game,
any
right?
No
Timeouts in
warning.
that last one.
But he just said there should be, and he's a football fanatic. You're not a football fanatic.
I don't care about football.
That's why. But you're saying there should be 3 timeouts.
There should be no
Timeouts.
They got to
Yeah,
drink
make it more
water and
exciting, no
stuff,
timeouts.
You know? Got to let the guys get hydrated and
No, I want to see them drop on the
pee into
field.
their little cups and their.
But usually they're well. They still. I don't know. Mostly it's in winter weather though. Most of the games are. Then again, LA won the Super Bowl last year, and they played in Tampa
Yeah.
in the playoffs, so that wasn't winter fucking weather.
That wasn't winter.
fucking weather.
and I've been to a lot of Bills games in November the last 6 or 7 years, and I was wearing a T-shirt for a lot of those.
Well, that's because of global warming,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a whole other topic.
which is the best thing that's ever happened to Buffalo.
You
Global
know.
warming.
I don't know.
well,
I think it's Josh Allen.
It's going to make Buffalo a lot more
Pleasant.
interesting for other people. The housing
It's a horrible
prices are gonna
horrible
go up.
place. We all know that. It's like the Antarctic
Yeah.
here.
Well, it was
like
cold.
Sib-
It was
But hey,
cold.
but I saw today my ex city that I lived in Iowa, Des Moines, was 104 today, and we were only 85. And I saw that, and I said, when I lived in Iowa, it never ever got that hot.
It's never been 100
Never got that
degrees
hot.
in Buffalo
Ever, no.
It's since recorded history.
It went up to 98, I think maybe 99, but it's never made 100. Yeah,
Really?
no,
Never.
because of the lake.
Yeah.
Really?
So,
Yeah.
I think I felt 100.
oh no, I know.
Oh,
It-
real
it-
feel, yeah, with
can-
humidity.
I mean, they
and-
call it actually was. How do they call that? that the temperature is one thing, but the way you feel
It's the
it is-
humidity. It could be 95 out, but the humidity
Well,
will make it feel like 102.
So they call
Heat
it
index.
Heat
Yeah.
index, yeah. Heat index.
Heat index.
I know all about meteorology.
Oh, you were.
index.
I used to watch Captain Tom Sanders on the news.
Yeah.
Was that his name, Captain Tom Sanders?
Tom Sanders, no.
Oh, it's Captain Tom Joel. That's what I
Tom
used to
Joel.
watch. I learned, and Danny Neverett
Tom Joel,
when
oh
he
my
shook his
God.
fanny in the morning.
Danny shakes your fanny.
Danny's still working. He's 94.
He's on the
He's doing a whole thing with another side. They have a new thing where they say, "Find Danny Neverett a job."
Wow. Wow.
So they put him at the Erie County Fair as a greeter. I'm not kidding. That's what it was in the
Come
Buffalo.
on in,
No, I'm not kidding.
everybody.
That's what Alan Pergament reported this week. They had a thing, a contest to find Danny a job because he's so bored with his retirement so he's creating people at the Erie County Fair this year.
How old is he? He's not-
94.
Is he really?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. He still got it though.
I like the fair.
But could he punt a football?
They're not going to do that anymore. This is the last year for it.
So that's definitely not.
They're not
going
going to bring a
job.
94-year-old into punt.
Maybe that's what they should do, though. Have
But
94-year-olds
no, because
punt it.
they never had a player over late 40s in
Yeah,
the
but
league.
that would make it more interesting.
And then they break their leg when they kick the ball. And it's like,
Oh, that's not funny. But
I know.
No, we're-
I know it's
That's
not.
ageism, Brian.
All right, so
No,
we-
it's not ages.
we
But
asked-
could you really see a game of whatever it could be, football, baseball,
Yeah.
whatever, 90-year-old people
Oh my God.
play?
So,
It's
all right.
only ageism if you successfully piss off the dinosaur.
Well, we've only got a few minutes left, and I want to get. Have you been reading anything that is of interest?
I've been reading the book Heaven's Ditch, God, Murder, the building of the Erie Canal in the 1820s, and the book goes actually more into, instead of just the actually pretty amazing building of the canal, it goes into the burned over district of especially Western New York in the crazy in the 1820s, all of the religious fervor and all the, like when Joseph Smith down in Canandaigua, New York, and said he found these gold tablets in the hill,
The
gold
angels.
the Cumorah Hill, and and he created Mormonism. But there were a lot of other wild preachers in New York State that, and it was just a really interesting time. Like, I didn't know about this thing in the 1820s. There was this huge, fad or crazy period where people had this, and this was all throughout the eastern part of the country, because in the 1820s there wasn't much beyond the eastern part of the country yet, really. But that's it, yeah. God, gold, and murder. I was going to say God, guns, and murder, but I got the second G
So
wrong.
did you know there was? I mean,
But check this out.
Yeah.
In the 1820s, on the East Coast and in New York State, people had this crazy thing where they were convinced that the Spanish had left treasures everywhere, or the Vikings or some ancient peoples, and people literally formed consortiums and groups of people and threw in their money to get crews, and they were literally digging giant holes everywhere in New England and New York State, even looking for lost treasures. It was like people were literally mad
if
and
you-
obsessed.
If you look at some of these towns that are
And-
were built up around where the canal was going through, there's all these bordellos, all these whorehouses that popped up along these routes because
well, that's exactly
it
what the book's
became-
about. It's
Yeah.
about the pull between the religious people, and there was really insane religious fervor, and then the people that were wait a second here, we want to be able to drink alcohol and have sex, and
right.
and so there was the licentiousness over here and the really crazy religious people over here. And the book, I'm sitting there on the can the other day reading the book, and it's like in the 1820s, everybody drank whiskey because a lot of it was the water was polluted. You couldn't trust the their sources of water, they didn't have filtration and everything. So even children drank whiskey, and Americans mostly drank hard liquor. They didn't drink much wine because that was a Frenchy European thing. And we had so much grain, corn and everything, that they made whiskey everywhere, and they served little kids whiskey at meals, and everyone drank alcohol. Like it was just total craziness.
People drank a lot of alcohol, a lot of beer
Yeah.
too. But okay, so we've
It
got
makes a man out of you.
we've got 4 minutes. I'm going to give. I wanted to give Tony a
Tony a time. I just wanted to mention. Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
Oh no, hit it, man.
You talk about books, and so forth.
Yeah.
I've been reading these mystery stories that take place in Accra, Ghana.
Oh,
Really?
The main character is a Ghanaian detective.
Yeah.
And talking about the Erie Canal, the last book I'm reading is Gold of Our Fathers. And he's up in sort of the middle part, in the Ashanti part of Ghana. And all the Chinese people are coming in to get gold out of the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And they have all these horrible problems with the rainstorms and sinking earth and
Sure.
polluting the rivers and so forth. But his name is Darky well, no, I can't remember. That was something Dawson, something like that. And the 4 books so far. There's more to come. Accra, Ghana.
Yeah.
The cultural, madness with all of the people coming back with juju, back in the the sort of the
Witchcraft.
Yeah.
along with the contemporary, trying to do an obituary, not an obituary, autopsy on a dead guy who's murdered. With the witch doctor coming in and putting juju as the guy is cutting him up to get everything. I'm sorry.
Let's give Tony 2 minutes. Tony,
Go. Quiet Carty is his
You
name.
brought some of your artwork with you, and we were talking a little bit about that. But are you reading anything that's interesting? Do you want to talk about the art?
Might as well talk about the art. Last thing I think I read was the instruction on a bottle of Gavalax.
What's that?
Here, this is just like the latest page that I completed.
We have. He is amazing with all of these. It's like it's a series. It's a graphic novel. Graphic novel. And yet Tony, you had mentioned something earlier where you're nervous about the fact that they are violent and you wouldn't want to expose people to that violence. But you also said you wouldn't want to dirty them up with money, which I thought was an interesting.
I look at what I've had to go through in the last, God knows, 25 or whatever years just to keep my head above water, and basically how people have taken any kind of work, and basically how they seem to suck everything spiritual out of it. I don't want money tainting what is free and pure in its own right that way.
That you're creating, you want to. Yeah, I can see that. I wish we lived in a world where people could utilize their skills and their talents in a way that made it possible for them to not have to go into a job that's going to suck the soul out of their body and leave them without any. Well, that's where alcohol and drugs come in, right? I mean, people get they go to a job that's not fulfilling, and they've got this inside of them or something like this.
I am drugs.
Yeah, I am. Well, that's what I'm saying. So you are channeling it this way instead of channeling it into unhealthy ways. But that's good. And I just love your artwork. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
So and I see it's all black and white except the lipstick.
Yeah.
It's a great place to end.
Lipstick, the last word.
No, just the show's over.
Oh.
You're still on. You can't be